Today we are taking a look at the Polar Pro Peter McKinnon Variable Neutral Density Filter Mist Edition 2. Let's go. Ooh, buddy. Now, if you're watching this, chances are you already know what a variable ND filter is. If you watch any of my videos, you know that if I'm shooting outside, I want to be shooting with a variable ND filter. I think, in fact, in my last video, I talked about how I loathed not having that variable ND filter for that shot of my buddy Jerry. So I've been shooting with the first generation, somewhere around here. So I've been shooting with the first edition of the Peter McKinnon Polar Pro VND 2-5 on the Canon EOS R for since I've been using it. I got it for my wife, and she's been using it over the last 2 years. I think it's been out for about 2 years now, and that's great. I love the look of having a VND on my camera, being outside. Typically when I'm outside, I'm already wearing a polarized sunglass, so having something like a circular polarizer or a VND is great. Hands down, need to have it in order to get the look that I want. So first off, I'm going to show you 2 shots that I took. Same settings on my camera, only about a minute apart. First one is on the first generation of the VND filter with no mist. Right out of camera, none of these are edited. This particular shot is really punchy, has a lot of contrast. The color profile is really vibrant. I'm digging it. I'm actually really liking it, just straight out of camera. I did shoot this on the Canon EOS R, 24mm at f5.6, shutter speeds over at 1/50, and ISO at 400. Now, both of these were going to be shot on a tripod, so what I'm going to show you next is the shot with the VND, same exact settings, but now with the mist filter. And now, right away, these 2 photos have a totally different vibe straight out of camera. I've done no editing here whatsoever. So they're both cranked up to the 5-stop setting on the VND ring, and I was actually surprised by how different these 2 looks are. The color on the first generation VND is just that. It's really contrasty. You're able to get a lot of color because you're able to open up that aperture a little bit wider, let in a little more light, filter out some of the harsh highlights that you're getting from this bright sunny day that we have. That sky gradient plus the blue on blue contrast of the water. If you know me, you know that 2 things. I love shooting wide, and I love me some good sky and water blues, battling it out in my images, and this one is no exception. Now in the mist diffusion filter shot, we're not just diffusing light here, but we're actually spreading some color through the image. I was really interested by this because we're losing some contrast, but we are gaining some softness both in the leaves and in the water, and it's actually it's almost like I got a film stock sort of preset that I was able to just drop in over my camera. And it gave me this really, I think, pleasing cinematic sort of look. I dig it. It was just kind of shocking to go from that really punchy, big color look that you get with a VND traditionally, and then tuning that back a little bit or controlling that in a way with the mist filter. But yeah, that totally surprised me how different those 2 images were. And now, after I took this shot and dialed this all in, I decided to go out and shoot more with the mist filter on the EOS R with the kit lens here. So I figured I'd share with you a couple more images that I took from this morning. Now, this first one I took here is of this duck wading through the water on the river. Again, no edits here. This duck was really kind to allow me to photograph it. The contrast from the duck's head and the body and the bill were really on point. I was actually really liking the reflections from this clock tower on the water. It kind of, with the diffusion, gave it sort of this oil painting kind of vibe, which I thought was kind of cool. It was very soothing and pleasing to the eye. But yeah, I'm digging it. I'm liking it. Yeah, again, no edits here. The next shot that I took was out at this pavilion that was open air, made up of these big metal cables. And right away, what I noticed in this image was that the mist filter with the light and these like semi-translucent fins that are attached to the cables were sort of creating this optical illusion of like motion in the cables. Even though this is a big structure and I'm shooting from down underneath it, I was really intrigued by how much motion and feeling I could get out of such like a stationary object that wasn't there when I was watching this with my naked eye. But again, it's that sort of cinematic effect shooting through that diffusion there, which yeah, it was pretty cool. I think that's really fun. And this final shot I took in the pavilion, but I was twisting around and seeing what kind of angles I could get. This particular challenge that I wanted is I wanted to try to bring the light from the sun to the underside of the shot. So I was getting light filling the frame from the bottom up instead of what you would naturally get top down sort of shooting with the horizon level. So this sort of has that same optical look with the fins on these cables, giving it sort of a sense of motion. And I had to zoom in on these and look at the fins carefully and go, are these just wildly out of focus? Or no, they're all in focus. They just have this cool sort of optical illusion with the diffusion and that sort of translucent look to them, which yeah, I thought was pretty cool. You'll also look at the gradients here in the bottom right hand corner of this shot. I really liked how the gradients sort of softened and weren't as harsh, even though this was out in broad daylight, nothing diffusing the sun. It actually gave a really pleasing contrast to the image, which I enjoyed. So yeah, I am really digging the mist effect on the VND. It took me a little bit to warm up to it, but I think after shooting with it a little bit, I was actually really impressed. Definitely gonna have to go out and shoot more with it. I do think this look is gonna grow in fashion in the coming year. I see that this isn't the only, it's the only mist VND filter out right now, but it's certainly not the only diffusion-esque type filter that has more recently come out in this past year. And I think as more people get their hands on that type of tool, along with going back to some older technologies, whether that's film or stacking filters and going for that kind of look, I do think this is going to actually sort of come back into fashion. But I'm curious to hear what all of you think. Is this a look that you would like to develop into your workflow, your grid, your portfolio? Leave a comment if it is. I think I really like it. I think I'm going to shoot with this, probably not exclusively, definitely not exclusively, but I definitely want to see more what this looks like in different environments and in different seasons. But all in all, yeah, I think all these photos, looking back at them, they had a really chill vibe, and I think after the year we've all had, we're going to want some good vibes. We're going to want some chill vibes. And so if you aren't subscribed already, please subscribe for good vibes. I would be honored if you would. And please be kind, both in life and in the comments below. My name is Stephen Foster, and let's do it again soon. I'm actually mostly stoked on the thumbnail for this. I really like the thumbnail that I grabbed for this. Yeah, this would make a great coaster, wouldn't it? You know what? I could use this for the outro.